security, no, no one. And I did see a camera out there, somebody with a camera. Who was it? Who was it?
That wasn't Wade, sir. I'm not sure who that was.
Where's BB&C? What was it for them?
It wasn't us.
There's nobody in this courtroom that was out there with a camera? I'm gonna ask again. Now, who was from BB&C? Did you have a camera out there that view, sir?
We arrived just like on the evening.
Were you present in the courtroom when I said no one should be at that view but the parties, no witnesses, no one else? You weren't in the courtroom when I said that? Were you out there, ma'am?
Yes, we were out there with the camera as well.
And you were with whom?
Well, we arrived after everyone left.
But you were with whom?
WTKR.
Were you in the courtroom when I made that announcement?
No, I was not.
And you said you were not present when I made that announcement, sir? Okay, you may proceed.
Just for full disclosure, the pilot did have a photographer there, still photos.
Were you in the courtroom when I made that announcement?
I was, but I wasn't at the scene taking the photos.
So did you convey that information to your colleague?
I tweeted it out. I'm not sure if it got to the photographer that was assigned to do it. We knew that the jury was
Where's the
happening.
photographer?
But he's out on another assignment now.
You conveyed to your organization that there should be nothing in the newspaper about that view, about a picture. Okay, any picture that he took should not be in the paper. Okay, and young ladies.
Sir, I'm not sure how, but that was a public parking lot.
I don't care what it was, sir. I did a court order. Okay,
I'll convey it to my editors.
you conveyed to your editor.
Okay.
I apologize. Had I known, I would have come down.
There should be nothing that you shot at that scene that goes on the section. You understand that? All right. Now, to you, since you said it was a public parking lot, not. Don't worry about it. Leave alone. Leave alone. I call the case.
Commonwealth of Virginia versus Stephen Rankin. Is the Commonwealth ready?
Commonwealth's ready.
Is the defense ready?
President ready, Your Honor.
All right, next witness. Bring the jury down. Who's your next witness?
Jesse Lenmar, Your Honor.
Again, good morning. Good morning. You ready to go to work? I understand that some of y'all thought you were going to breakfast, right?
Inquiry. Thank you, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please state your name and occupation for the court.
It's Jesse, Jesse, M as in Michael, Linmar, Lindmar, and I'm currently employed with the Virginia Department of Forensic Science. I'm a forensic scientist section supervisor for the digital and multimedia evidence section.
Thank you, sir. And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
3.5 years.
And that's with the Department of Forensic Science in Richmond, correct?
Correct.
All right. What are your duties as a forensic scientist in that capacity?
I manage the day-to-day operation of the digital and multimedia evidence section. Acronym for that would be DME. That includes managing our case backlog, managing our section's compliance with accreditation standards, the initial training of new personnel, and also conducting examinations on digital evidence, drafting reports on those examinations, and ultimately providing testimony in court if required.
Please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about your educational background.
My academic background is in biochemistry, but my work experience and my specialized training over the last 12 years has been directly related to examinations related to digital evidence or digital forensics.
And could you tell them about some of the relevant coursework that you completed with respect to that background and that training?
Sure. My career began as a police officer with the Oklahoma State University Police Department in Stillwater, Oklahoma. After a period of time in patrol, I was promoted to investigations, and that's where I began investigating high technology crimes. When appointed to that position, I went off for specialized training on a software program called NCASE, which is a digital forensic investigative platform that's used by digital forensic examiners. After that training, I went through 2 courses on the NCASE platform. I then became employed with a company called Vogon International, and they were a digital forensic and data recovery company based out of the United Kingdom. I had worked in their Norman, Oklahoma office, and while employed with them, I received specialized internal training on their proprietary digital forensic hardware and software platform. I was also responsible for conducting computer investigations while in employment. After that, I was employed by a company called Miles Technologies. I was their director of computer forensics. I basically established their digital forensic specialty for that company. It was an information technology company based out of Morristown, New Jersey. And then after that, I worked for a company called Sensei Enterprises in Fairfax, Virginia. I was their director of digital forensics. That company specialized in providing digital forensic, information technology, and information security services. While there, I received a lot of specialized external training. If I could refer to my CV, I'd be happy to go through some of that coursework.
You can.
So throughout my career, in fact going back to the police department, I attended a computer crimes investigator training program, a computer forensics training program, which went through the State of Oklahoma Council on Law Enforcement Education and Training. I mentioned the NCASE courses. Those are Introduction to Computer Forensics and Intermediate Analysis and Reporting. While with Vogon, I attended their modular imaging system, image processing and investigation coursework, as well as their practical computer investigations course. I attended a digital forensic research workshop. I've also attended the Techno Forensics Conference on 3 occasions. I've attended X-Ways Forensics training. X-Ways Forensics is another specialized digital evidence investigative platform. Also through the same company that provides the X-Ways Forensics equipment and training, I attended their File Systems Revealed course, which went into an in-depth explanation of the various file systems that you can find on storage devices. I attended a hard drive data recovery forensics course, which provided training on how to recover information from failing or failed storage devices. I also attended training called Nuix Boot Camp. Nuix is another software suite for analyzing data. I also attended Macintosh Forensic Primary Analysis training, and this would have been training on Apple devices, primarily Mac-based computer systems. I also attended a mobile device forensics course, which was specializing in extracting information from mobile phones and also analyzing that information. I attended a metadata and EXIF tags webinar, which was provided by the National White Collar Crime Center. And also a webinar on what investigators and analysts need to know about hiding on the internet. That would be the end of, I'm sorry. There was also an advanced VGA chip-off analysis in education. Chip-off is when we sometimes analyze mobile phones and we're unable to communicate with them because there may be one or more security measures on the device. Could also be that the device is physically damaged and non-functional. So chip-off is used when we would physically remove the memory chip from the phone and read it using specialized hardware and software, and then ultimately be able to analyze the data that we acquired from that memory chip. I also attended mobile device repair and JTAG forensics. JTAG, it's an acronym for Joint Test Acquisition Group. It's another method for acquiring information from could be damaged or security locked mobile devices. I attended a Linux 101, Linux for Forensic Analysis online training. I also attended Forensic Video Analysis with Video Focus Pro training, and that was training on Salient Sciences is the name of the company. It was training on their proprietary video analysis software. I also attended Forensic Audio Clarification with Cardinal Minilab and Quick Enhanced VST. It's a software and hardware package also developed by Salient Sciences for analyzing audio recordings. I'm also a certified technical assessor with the American Society of Crime Lab Directors Laboratory Accreditation Board. Most forensic laboratories are accredited as CLAD. The American Society of Crime Lab Directors Laboratory Accreditation Board is one of those accrediting bodies. As a certified technical assessor for them, I will go and assess other accredited laboratories to make sure they're in compliance with ASCLAD standards as well as their own. I'm also an NCASE certified examiner and a certified computer examiner through the International Society of Forensic Computer Examiners. And I'm also certified as a forensic scientist from the Virginia Department of Forensic Science.
Thank you, sir. And I know you've given us quite a few of them, but are you a member of any other professional organizations related to your particular field?
Yes, as a certified computer examiner, I'm also a member of the International Society of Forensic Computer Examiners. I'm also a member of IASIS, which is the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists, and a member of the FBI's InfraGuard program.
All right, and have you been qualified to testify in court as an expert witness in digital forensics?
I have.
All right. How many times have you analyzed the type of case that we have, the type of evidence that we have at issue in this case?
This would have been the second case where I formally analyzed a taser device.
All right. How many times have you testified as an expert witness in digital forensics, if you know the number?
It would have been 18 times.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would move to offer Mr. Jesse Linmar as an expert in the field of digital forensics.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. And you did have occasion to analyze some particular evidence with respect to an incident that occurred at the Wal-Mart on Frederick Boulevard on April 22nd, 2015. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. May I approach, Your Honor? Thank you. And as a result of that analysis, did you generate a report?
Yes, I did.
And does that look familiar with what I just handed to you?
Yes, this would be the certificate of analysis that I created.
All right, and I'm also going to show you two other items and ask if you recognize those items and what they are.
Yes, one would be the examination results disc. This would contain the examination results that I generated as part of my analysis. The second would be my evidence sources disc, and this would contain similar information to the examination results, but also additional data that I had used during the course of my analysis.
And just for clarification purposes, when we're talking about this analysis that you completed, what did you analyze?
There were 6 evidence items that were submitted. Of those 6, there were 2 items that I examined. One was listed as a TASER X26. It's an electronic control device, or ECD. It's also known as a conducted electrical weapon, or CEW. The second item was a TASER CAM, which is a digital video recorder. And there was a third item that I used to communicate with those 2 devices, and it's a proprietary USB cable that's used to connect to the devices and then ultimately to a computer system.
All right. And that second item that you referred to being the CAM, is that attached to the first item you referred to, the TASER, or would that be attached to the cartridge?
So the TASER CAM, that is the digital video recorder. It's also a battery. It's one unit. So the battery is built into the TASER CAM. That would then be plugged into the TASER X26, the electrical weapon. And the battery that then powers the camera also powers the electrical weapon.
All right, so the only thing that we can talk about removing from that TASER is that item that you just referred to.
Correct, the TASER CAM.
Okay, and I think we've been referring to it as a cartridge, so that's something that inserts into the TASER.
Correct.
All right. Your Honor, this time I approach the clerk to retrieve Commonwealth Exhibit number 20 and
Wait a
21.
minute.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. All right. And I'm showing you for the record what has been previously admitted into evidence in Commonwealth Exhibit number 20 and 21. And I'm going to ask you if we can get these open and see if you can recognize what they are and if they had anything to do with your analysis. Dr. Steve?
Yes, it looks like it might have been opened again, but it does have my seal on it
All right,
and my initials as well.
and your initials are right here, JML?
Correct, they're all on either side of the evidence tape and also on the side of the box. It's
Okay.
dated with my initials. Tape did its job. Based on the initials on the packaging and the serial number on the actual device, this would be the TASER X26, item 19, as listed in my certificate of analysis.
Okay. So this is your item 19, and Commonwealth Exhibit number 20 here in evidence. I'm going to ask you to just take it out and hold it up in the hands of the ladies and gentlemen of jury to see the item. So So this is the taser. And what are the parts inside that we see?
So this here is the Taser X26. This is the electronic control device or the conductive electrical weapon. And the serial number is actually on the top of the unit, and that's partially how I can identify this device. Other items in this packaging were some of the other items that were submitted as part of the examination. There was a Taser digital power magazine, which is essentially a battery cartridge. There was a Taser cartridge, which would be the part of the unit that would deploy into a subject. There was an unopened or unused Taser cartridge, and probably the USB cable is also in that packaging.
All right, so let's open item number 20. Did you recognize what it is?
So item 20 is still sealed. This would, excuse me, this would have been the unused or unopened Taser cartridge, and this was not anything that I examined. It was just logged as part of the evidence inventory.
So was the other Taser cartridge that was examined, is that in these items right here? Can you look and see if you see it? And just as you're bringing them up, can you kind of tell us what they are, if you know?
Sure. So this was labeled as item 19A as far as my evidence numbering, and this was the digital power magazine, so it's, again, just the battery for a Taser X26.
And does this go
Correct.
by itself?
Yes, it
Okay.
would plug into
This
the
is
bottom of
plugged
the
in.
unit.
Now, this is the battery. So this
Correct.
is something
That's
different.
just the battery, correct. My item 19B is the Taser Cam. So again, this is the digital video recorder along with the battery. It's one molded unit.
Okay, so this is what records, and also this has the battery.
Correct.
Now, where does this go, so ladies and gentlemen, the jury can get an understanding on the Taser? Does it go right here?
No, so this battery pack would plug into the bottom of the unit
Okay.
this way. So the camera would be facing forward when you have the electrical weapon pointed at something.
Now, what effect, with your knowledge about what this Taser is, what effect does this have on the Taser itself? You said the camera is on there and also the battery.
Correct. So that battery is effectively what's powering the electrical weapon. So when somebody pulls the trigger and that electrical weapon is deployed, it's drawing its power from that battery pack. That battery pack at the same time is also what's powering the video recorder, allowing it to record audio and video.
And when does it start recording? At what point?
According to documentation for the user manual documentation for these units, this was not something that I had tested, but when you, there's actually a switch. I covered it with tape, so I...
Stand to either side.
Yes, sir.
So the jurors can
Yes, sir.
see.
This green tape is something I put on here, so I did not accidentally move the switch, but there's effectively a safety switch on the side of this unit. In fact, it's on both sides. And when you flip this safety switch up, if there is power to the unit, could be a multi-second delay, up to a 2-second delay, but when you flip that switch into the arm position, that's when the unit will begin recording video if that camera is present, if you're using a power pack with a camera. So when you flip it to armed, up to 2 seconds later is when the video recording will start.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else in the bag that you analyzed in any way?
No, there is not.
All right. And you generated a report as a result of your analysis, and you've already looked at that and said that you recognize this as your report, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right, this time I would move to admit the report is Commonwealth Exhibit number 54. The certificate of analysis.
No objection, Your Honor.
So received.
Madam First Clerk, And we also looked at these envelopes that you recognize as having your initials on them. Can you open these envelopes and tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what is in each one of these envelopes?
So this envelope, this was sealed with my initials. It has my handwriting on it. Inside of it, there is a compact disc, which would have contained my examination results. So this would have been the data, the information that I extracted from the electrical weapon and from the taser cam, and those files would be on this compact disc. And along with that is just paper instructions on how to access the information that's on this disc.
All right, now explain what you mean when you say the data is on this particular disc.
So from the two items, there were two.
I'm
You
sorry.
need to continue to say that when you ask the question.
Your Honor, I was going to move to if these items into evidence, but I can return.
It was there. Just finish testifying.
So from the two items that I examined, there were two sources of results that were generated. From the Taser X26, the electrical weapon, the unit, it contains event logs, so records of events that have occurred on the device. And for this particular unit, when I'm accessing those records offline, meaning I'm not connected to the internet or anything, the mechanism that I use to communicate with that device is a software program that Taser developed. It's called Taser Evidence Sync. So when I use that software and that Taser device is connected to my analysis computer, the Evidence Sync software sees the device and it's able to show me the event logs that are on that device. In this case, at the end of my analysis, there were 270 event logs, and they basically consisted of records of trigger pulls. So when the trigger was pulled on the device, it would have a date and time stamp of when that occurred, and that date and time stamp in the report that I generated is listed in what's called Universal Coordinated Time, or UTC. Basically means it has a time zone of 0, and if I want to be able to determine and calculate when in local time, like here in Virginia, we're in Eastern Standard Time, I would have to subtract either 5 hours or 4 hours from that UTC time to get a local time. The reason why it's reported in Universal Coordinated Time is because I know that the timestamp that is going to be accurately represented. It's not going to have any discrepancies due to the clock settings on my analysis computer versus the clock settings on the device, because the electrical weapon actually has a clock that operates inside of it. So again, there's a timestamp when the trigger pull occurred. It will give you the duration of that trigger pull in seconds. It will then tell you the temperature of the battery at that time, and that's measured in Celsius. And then it'll tell you the percentage of battery charge that's remaining on that battery. The second type of log entry is a sync log entry, and basically it will show when the clock on the Taser device synced with a clock on a computer device that it was connected to, and that's basically to keep the clock accurate. So the report will consist of those trigger events and sync events. So there were 270 of those altogether in that report. There were, as I recall, 16 anomalous entries, meaning that they were corrupt in some way. Either it had an invalid timestamp or there was no additional data in the log entry. But excluding those 16, the remaining records of those 270 were accurate.
And just for clarification, we're not talking about 270 events as it pertains to this particular event.
That's correct. That's as far as those are the records that were contained on this unit for a specific period of time. So as long as that unit was in use, there was 270 records on there. The unit can effectively hold 2,000 plus records, and when you start going over that amount, it'll start overwriting older records, and that's from the user manual. That was not something that I had tested.
All right.
So when these records are displayed in the Evidence Sync software, I can, from that software, create an Adobe PDF document that lists those electronic records. And that's the one examination result item that I created from the electrical weapon. It's a PDF report that contains those 270 records.
And so that's the data you're referring to that's on that disk?
Correct.
Okay. And the next item that you have, what do you recognize that to be?
I'd like to back up for a second. So it also contains video recordings that I extracted from the TASER cam. During analysis of that, also using the TASER Evidence Sync software, it showed there were 174 video files that were on that TASER camera, but there were only 7 that were on or about the April 22nd date. I believe there was 1 recorded on April 21st, and then 6 recorded on April 22nd. And again, that's in that universal coordinated time. So if I wanted to know when that was in local time, you have to subtract 4 or 5 hours from it. April 22nd was during daylight savings time, so you'd actually subtract 4 hours from the UTC time that's displayed. So there was the PDF report and then the 7 video files on the examination results disk. The second item, this is what we call our evidence sources, or our derivative evidence. This is also a compact disc that I created. It not only contains the same data as what's on the examination results, so the PDF report and the 7 video files, it also contains some additional log files that the Evidence Sync software generates while the Evidence Sync software is operational and there's a device connected to it. It's a log file that's used for debugging purposes. If TASER or an end user wanted to see some additional information about the unit, maybe to find out why the TASER software maybe wasn't operating as you thought it would, or other things. But those log files were part of my analysis, and they're also included on this evidence sources disk.
Can I map that?
This is the second disc that we discussed.
Correct. Yep.
This is the first disc that contains the report and also contains the video that you were able to extract from the case, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Move to admit the video, the first video containing the report and also the video files as Commerce Exhibit number 55. And move to admit the second disc containing derivative sources as Commerce number 56.
Judge, I have no objection to the video files. The log that Mr. Lindmar has testified about that he generated that is on that disk deals with a number of dates, as he indicated, since this TASER has been ultimately put into existence. And I would argue to the court that none of that is relevant. We can't even say that Mr. Rankin had the TASER at that time. There are 3 specifically trigger events on April 22nd that I have no objection to, but the events that are listed throughout this report are the event logs that are referenced I would object to.
Your Honor, my response is that we have a whole lot of information on these disks that were pulled from this TASER by this forensic scientist that he used in coming to his analysis. We've already had that certificate of analysis introduced into evidence, and to be able to fully examine him about the extent of his testing and the reason why he drew the conclusions that he did, I would argue that all of this information is relevant, and that's why he included it in his report that's on this disc.
Overruled. I would grant you great leeway on cross. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Understood.
And so we've already submitted your certificate of analysis into evidence as Commonwealth's Exhibit number 54. Do you have your version of that, or would you like for me to retrieve that from the court when I ask you questions about that report?
No, I do have a copy of it with me.
All right. Just tell us in layman's terms, if you can, what exactly the results on your certificate of analysis mean from all of the different examinations that you did. You just went into great detail explaining all of the processes that you used. But what does your certificate of analysis show us?
The certificate of analysis is simply just documenting the results that I'm returning. That I'm returning the PDF report from the electrical weapon, and I'm returning 7 video files from the taser cam. It doesn't explain anything else about the content of that report or the content of the video files, just that I'm simply returning those items as my results.
Okay, and what do your results mean? If there's anything that you can tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to help them understand, you've given us great detail in scientific terms about what all of this means digitally, but what can you explain to them about what you observed in that data?
Well, again, the event logs would show events that have occurred on the unit, and they're going to go back historically through a certain lifespan of that electrical weapon. In relation to this case, the records of interest may be those around April 22nd, or the time of this particular incident.
So let me just stop you. Let's go to April 22nd. For the very first entry that you saw on April 22nd, is there any indication about the status of the battery on that day? And I know we have, you indicated that there's a time code that you use. If you can put that into Eastern Standard Time so that we can kind of understand, so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can get an idea of what time that would have been that we see the first arming or trigger pull or any type of log entry that you see on that day.
So I'm looking at a printed copy of that PDF report that had the event logs from the electrical weapon. And the first entry for the local time, April 22nd, in Universal Coordinated Time, it's listing it as April 22nd, 2015 at 11:35:52 a.m. Again, I need to subtract 4 hours from that to put that into Eastern Daylight Time, because April 22nd we would be within Daylight Savings Time in Virginia. So that would be 7:35:52 a.m. Is when this trigger event was recorded. It's showing that the duration of the trigger pull lasted 1 second. The temperature of the battery was 20 degrees Celsius, and the remaining battery charge at that point was 75%.
Okay, so there was 75% on the battery at that time. And then what other entries do you have after that time period on April 22nd, 2015?
The second entry for, again, local time, so it will be in Eastern Daylight Time, there was a second trigger pull at 7:35:57 a.m. on April 22nd. And again, it was a duration of 1 second. The temperature of the battery was 20 degrees Celsius, and the percentage of battery charge remaining was then 74%.
All right. Now, are you able to distinguish between an arming and a trigger pull for purposes of your report or what you're looking at right now?
So from this event log, it does not record any arming. So when that safety switch gets flipped into an armed position, and then a video may be recorded at that point. However, if you look at the video recordings, when they're recorded on the unit and when they're copied from the taser cam, when I say unit I mean the taser cam, the name of the video file, it contains the serial number of the camera that recorded it. It may also contain the serial number of the electrical weapon that the camera was connected to. It has a 4-digit sequential number, so a unique identifier for the video file. And within the file name, it also records the date and time that the video began recording, and then the duration of that recording, so how many seconds that recording lasts. And that date and time is, again, in that Universal Coordinated Time. So again, based on the information from the user manual on the unit, If the device was armed, that's when the recording would have started with approximately a 2-second delay can have. So if you look at the timestamp when the video began recording, I could opine that the device had to have been armed for the recording to take place.
Okay. Now, you indicated that the second trigger pull, there was a 74% battery remaining. After that time, did you see any other trigger pulls close in time with that, or any other armings or any other activity that would have shown up on your report?
As far as the event log from the electrical weapon,
Yes.
that last trigger pull is the last event that was recorded for April 22nd.
Okay, so we have 75% battery on the first and 74% battery on the second, and both times the temperature of the battery was 20 degrees Celsius. What, if anything, does the temperature mean?
I don't really have, I guess, a good comment on that.
Okay.
I guess it would just represent the overall health and functionality of the battery. Batteries function better when they're cool. Just from use, they're going to heat up. So potentially having a hot battery could have negative effects on the functionality of the unit.
And how would you characterize a 20-degree battery in terms of temperature?
In relation to this unit, I don't
know.
comment
Okay.
on how well or how not well the unit would function at that temperature.
Okay, all right. At this time, I would ask to retrieve Commonwealth's Exhibit number 50, number 55.
And our permission to publish this to the jury by playing it, the video.
All right.
Now I would ask that you pay close attention to this as well. If you can't see, please step down. Do you recognize this recording?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and is this a fair and accurate representation of what you downloaded from that taser cam?
Yes, it appears to be.
And this is one of the slides that you talked about. You said there were 6 videos on that day, on April 22nd. Is this one of these videos?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your Honor, this is the original disc. The version that is playing, or that would play, of this second slide is upside down. The Commonwealth has a version where it is right side up so that it's easier for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury to view. Defense counsel has no objection to playing that in lieu of the original, and we would ask the court's permission to do so.
Counsel.
Judge, no objection.
All right, you may.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, can you send the bags in?
sir. In this second video, I realize that as we indicated and we asked the court for permission that it's upside, or we flipped it for the jury to have an easier view. But other than that, is this a fair and accurate depiction of what you downloaded from that taser cam?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Your Honor, may I retrieve the exhibits? You have that one?
Counsel, let me bring this to your attention. The one that you want admitted is the one that's upside down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, if we get to the point where the jury may want to do this during the course of their deliberation, it's okay that we have the one that you saw.
Yes, Your Honor. I would move to admit that into evidence as well.
Okay, if you-
I have no objection to that.
Your Honor, we would move to admit this into evidence. It's Commonwealth Exhibit number, I believe, 57. Thank you. May I approach the clerk?
I'm sorry, which, was that the one that's turned right side up?
Yes.
No objection.
So, please.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
And sir, all of the information that you were able to obtain, download, and compile, and generate reports as a result of, you returned all of those findings, you turned all of that over, and the findings, the certificate of analysis, and everything else of that nature to the state police, correct?
Yes, I did.
And those are the items that we've admitted into evidence today.
Yes.
At this time, please answer any questions the counsel or court may have for you. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
When the taser was brought to you and you initially received it, you inspected it, looked at it?
Yes.
What was the condition of the taser?
It looked like it had been used.
Did you notice a crack in the back of it near the display?
Not that I recall.
There's been some testimony about how the taser goes together. When you received the taser, you received everything separated, correct?
Yes.
The taser was one piece that you received, correct?
Yes.
The taser camera was another.
Yes.
There was another battery that you received,
Yes.
and 2 taser cartridges.
Yes.
And the taser cartridges, and if you aren't able to answer this, I understand the taser cartridges are what go on the front of the taser, to your understanding, correct?
Yes.
That would shoot prongs out.
Yes.
You testified about downloading this information with a program called Evidence Sync, correct?
Yes.
And basically, and maybe I'm simplifying this too much, basically what you do is you hook the taser up to a computer with this Evidence Sync software, and it downloads the digital information on the taser.
It'll show me the digital information on the taser. I have to manually choose to copy it off of the taser to my analysis system.
And that's what you did in this case.
Yes.
And it generates a report that there's been some testimony about that shows you events, as it's called, correct?
Yes.
Trigger events, correct?
That's one of the events that are recorded in that log, yes.
And you would agree that a number of events in your event log have to be inaccurate.
Yes, I believe there were at least 16 entries that had some sort of corruption or anomaly with them.
And some of them being, for instance, a log that says the trigger was pulled on February 16th of 2064.
Correct.
A trigger that was pulled September 10th of 2000 before this was manufactured.
Do you happen to know which sequence number that is?
Sure, number 19?
Correct.
A number of entries that just indicate there are errors for invalid date and time.
Correct.
An entry, specifically number 268, that says the trigger was pulled in the year 2042.
Correct.
Safe to say the trigger pulls that are documented, or trigger activations that are documented throughout your report that look like are in the years 2009, 2010, all the way up through 2015. That doesn't, your report doesn't differentiate between whether that is a test fire to check the functionality of the taser or used in some other context.
That's correct.
It's your understanding that there is a lag, so to speak, when you turn on the taser. If there is a taser cam connected to it, the camera does not immediately start recording.
Correct.
It's about a 2-second lag. Is that accurate?
That's what's recorded in the user manual.
So that's information you received from Taser International on the product.
Correct.
You testified about some of the entries or some of the information being, I think you used the word corrupt. What do you mean by corrupt?
You had described some of those entries yourself where they have an invalid date and time. For example, the one entry that has a year of 2064, or if the event itself was listed as an error event, or for somewhere the duration, the temperature, the battery remaining information, it all just simply says invalid date time. Those are ones I would categorize as corrupt.
And when you say corrupt, it doesn't mean tampered with.
Correct. It just means some error in the information, that the accurate information couldn't be presented correctly.
And it doesn't mean it's been altered in any way.
Correct.
You indicated that by your analysis there was a trigger pull on April 22nd at what is documented as 11:35 and 52 seconds, and that is Central Time. Correct?
That would be the UTC, or Universal Coordinated Time.
And then another at 11:35:57.
Correct.
There's also an entry that has the date of April 22nd, and it says 00:31:32.
Correct.
But transferring that entry into Eastern Standard Time would mean that that trigger event happened on April 21st.
It would be Eastern Daylight Time that you'd want to convert that into, but yes, it would be the evening of April 21st.
Okay, so the two trigger pulls that your analysis determined happened on April 22nd, Eastern Daylight Time, I think you referred to it as, would have been at 7:35 a.m. and 52 seconds, correct?
Yes, correct.
And 7:35 a.m. and 57 seconds.
Correct.
So 5 seconds apart.
Correct.
It seems, based on watching the video and reading the report and some of your testimony, that the actual taser device itself has a time mechanism or records time in some way, correct?
Yes, it does.
And the taser camera has a time mechanism that records time.
My understanding is it's the taser, the electrical weapon system clock is what would provide clock information to the taser cam. So the taser cam itself would not have a mechanism of tracking time. It's using the system clock from the electrical weapon.
So based on that, there should only be, the times that you record in your event log and your report should correspond to the times that are seen on videos.
They could, if you had a trigger pull within the time the video recording took place. They're independent of each other.
Because if you pull the trigger immediately after turning on the device, it will not start recording.
You have to arm the device in order to pull the trigger.
Right.
The action of arming the device is what triggers the recording to take place. So you could arm and recording take place without pulling the trigger.
And you could arm it, pull the trigger without the camera recording at that moment because of the delay?
That could be possible depending on the length of the delay.
Judge, if I may have one more. Judge, if I could have just one moment to pull up what has been received into evidence. I'm going to ask you to step down in just a moment after I hook up.
Are you ready for her to try to swing on?
I am, Your Honor.
Correct?
It is.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take a short recess. When we do this. Back to the jury. All right, all rise.